Yep. Okay. So looks like we've got 6 people logging in. So everyone's logging in now. Right. Let's wait. Let's wait one more minute. We've got 9 people logged in, so that's still growing. Okay, let's get started. So good morning, everyone. Welcome to New Use Energy's webinar series on how to use solar generators for emergency management. My name is Lee Feliciano, and I'm going to be your host. But first of all, I wanted to take you through today's webinar sort of agenda. We're going to start off by having our CEO, Paul Schmodaloka, introduce New Use Energy and provide you with a brief overview of news products. And then we're going to get into the main presentation, really comparing news solar generators with gas generators, and then talking about some of the considerations for using solar generators, followed by case studies. And then we will wrap up before Q&A with a discussion on the impact of the Inflation Reduction Act on our equipment, or at least some of our equipment, and then we'll move into Q&A. So, and this is all I'll try to cover this in about 30 minutes. So I'm going to move on. So I'd like to introduce Paul Schmodaloka. Paul's our CEO. And he's going to be talking about New Use Energy's products. So Paul, take it away.
So hi, I'm going to give just a quick introduction because when you're looking at emergency power, we've looked at it from a number of angles and created a breadth of product lineups. We're not a one product focused company. We're a solutions oriented company to meet whatever the need is of our customers for mobile solar. So we do start with our ultra portable power packs, which are designed to be tough. They're not generally designed just for use in the home or camping. They're made for repeated use and abuse. We actually start with a case and then we build the system around it. So in these photos, you'll see some examples in New Orleans at Hurricane Ida, powering trunk mobile systems, various conveniences, and the like. Our current lineup is with around 3 units from 1,000 watt inverter to 2,000 watts, and from 830 watt hours to 6,200. But I am pleased to announce shortly in the next couple of weeks that we have a 3rd generation product line of even tougher cases and even larger inverters. So we heard back from our customers that they wanted more robust inverters and even better cases and more information actually coming from it as well. So then we designed, we have a line of our modular sun kits. These are the toughest enclosures and they are larger systems often using transformer-based inverters, so very robust, extremely portable, despite the look of it. I myself have lifted them into pickups and the like. And these are made to be very long-term solutions. And then our Sunwings, this is our newest line of small and large trailers. And we are using primarily cargo trailers. So there's room for the power system and then room for functionality for the customers. We actually just shipped, actually in 10 minutes, we're shipping one of these smaller 5x8s for a Wi-Fi and power trailer to South Florida or Central Florida, likely moving to Sanibel Island to provide Wi-Fi and power for the community there. They're all made to deploy super fast. I think that's one of the conveniences of the unit. And then we listened to our customers, and everybody had a hard time working in quick deployments with glass frame panels. So we've designed a line of solar tarps using very robust, equally productive to glass frame panels, solar arrays. And I just want to point out in the bottom right, the person in that photo is 5 feet tall, holding 420 watts of solar. And that's the equivalent of the panel that she's standing next to. In that pickup truck, that's 5 kilowatts of solar panels. And so it's great that you have a power pack or a sun kit, but it's much stronger when it's bundled with a monocrystalline solar array that's lightweight and easy to deploy.
Great. Thanks very much, Paul. So now we're going to get into the main presentation on using solar generators for emergency management. Just wanted to quickly kind of set the set the atmosphere by talking about how solar generators are really for most users are a necessary evil. The easiest conversations we have about converting people over to solar generators is when we talk to people who actually use regular gas or diesel power generators to do their jobs, right? Because no one likes using them, but they have to use them, right? In those cases. And so they are the de facto solution. Some of their limitations, which we're outlining here, I think those of you who use generators are probably pretty familiar with. There is one point that I want to emphasize here, that for certain applications like outdoor events, more recreational, or even in some cases, festivals, there is legislation in certain states that is preparing to restrict or outlaw their usage because of mainly air pollution, but also noise pollution. So this is a comparison of, and I'm going to move my screen here. Oops, sorry. This is a comparison of a gas-powered generator, which is, again, the de facto solution to a solar generator. So just so you guys have sort of an objective comparison. We've already talked about the limiting factors of a gas-powered generator. First and foremost is really your fuel supply, right? Your generator operates as long as you have a steady, predictable supply of fuel. And then other limiting factors are the size of your fuel tank and, of course, the output of your generator. So similarly, for a solar generator, the output of your inverter is a limiting factor. So just by comparison, the solar generator on the right, which has a 320 watt folding solar panel array behind it, that particular version has a 1500 watt inverter. As Paul mentioned, we're about to get some next generation models in a few weeks. The next generation version of this product will have a 2000 watt generator. So that's a direct analog to the Honda generator. But the equivalent of your gas tank size is basically your battery capacity, right? So the battery capacity will dictate how long you can run that generator for. But, and this is really where things start to differentiate, your fuel supply is essentially the amount of sunlight you get, right? And so, if you have a sunny day, once your battery is topped up, which could be in as little as a few hours, then you can essentially be working off the sunlight, off the solar panels, without tapping into the battery. So that is a pretty significant difference. So the other things that you need to consider are, prioritizing, and this applies whether you're using a regular generator or a solar generator, right? It's really about what is your highest and best use for that resource. And you can categorize what it is you're trying to operate, by saying, is this a critical load? Do we absolutely have to have this thing operating? Versus what is important but not critical versus, what is a nice to have, right? And so these are some examples. The other thing you want to consider is how long you're running that load for, because again, it depends on the size of your fuel tank or your battery capacity, right, as to how long you can run it for. And then, your location, because that sometimes dictates the amount of solar you have in the case of a solar generator. So making sure that your solar panels are not in the shade or underneath a tree, right? You want to expose them to as much sun as possible. And then you have considerations like budget, because right now a solar generator does cost a little bit more than a gas generator, but of course it has zero operating costs, right? So you never have to buy gas for it. You never have to pay someone to come by and fill up the tank. And as I mentioned earlier, the recently approved Inflation Reduction Act actually has some pretty significant financial implications, which we will get into. So I just wanted to share this quote that I read from a volunteer at a nonprofit called ITDRC. It really jives with our own experience in the field, working with our colleagues in the disaster relief side. And essentially, I'll read what I think is the key sentence, which is, after a disaster, if survivors had a choice to either get in line for lunch or get on a phone call, they'll choose communication, right? And fortunately, communications are one of those loads, energy loads, that don't require a whole lot of power, but have a really high value, obviously. So that's kind of our sweet spot, right? We can power a wide range of communications with our solar generators. And again, if you size the system and the solar panels properly, you can operate those comms indefinitely without having to worry about fuel supply. So let me talk a little bit about some case studies. And again, forgive me, I'm trying to cover a lot of ground here. So I'm going to touch briefly on each of these. But if you go to our website, we actually have a lot of information, including YouTube videos about case studies and applications, that are happening sometimes in real time or almost real time. So something that is obviously, very real and current is what's going on in Florida with Hurricane Ian. So that picture on your upper left-hand side was sent to us earlier this week by some of our colleagues and volunteers in Florida. And that is actually a community build. So we work with a nonprofit called Footprint Project, and one of Footprint's missions or activities is to work with populations in affected areas, in this case, Florida, and show them how to build their own solar generators using our equipment. And the idea behind that is we're not just donating a generator to them that they can then use, but by actually teaching them how to build the products themselves, then they're empowered to not only understand how the product works, but to maintain and or repair it if necessary, right? Unlike just dropping off a piece of equipment there and saying, here's how to turn it on and off. If it breaks down, what do you do, right? So in this case, really the local populations are being educated as to how everything works, and they can, to some extent, control their own destiny. Down below that is a picture from Hurricane Ida in Louisiana last year. So again, we were very active. A lot of our equipment was deployed after Hurricane Ida by our friends at Footprint Project. That is one of the trailers that we built for that. Well, we didn't build it for Hurricane Ida, but we built it and it was deployed at Hurricane Ida and subsequently was also deployed at the Bonnaroo Music Festival. Upper right-hand side, you just have a picture of a trailer and some solar shelters or solar tents that we built for another nonprofit called Empowered by Light. And that equipment was actually deployed in Puerto Rico after the earthquake. So that's what that picture shows. And then lastly, in the bottom right is a recent photograph, probably within the last month or so, of one of our what we call our international or dual power units, powering an operating room in a hospital in Ukraine. So let me talk a little bit about the Inflation Reduction Act, because as I said, this is potentially a game changer. So as some of you may know, previously, prior to the IRA being in place, there was something called the investment tax credit for solar, which meant that if you were a taxpaying entity, you would qualify for a 30%, and it was actually declining. So prior to the IRA, it was down to 26%. But as a taxpayer, you could claim a 30% tax credit on the cost of your equipment, right? So if you had a $10,000 solar system, you could actually get a $3,000 tax credit. One of the issues was if you didn't pay taxes, if you were a nonprofit or government entity, you got nothing. And so that gave rise to all sorts of, financial arrangements whereby for-profit entities like leasing companies or banks or investors could finance the system for a non-tax-paying entity and get the tax credit. However, in the case of the Inflation Reduction Act, there is now a new feature which is called a direct cash payment, whereby a non-tax-paying entity can file and receive a check, basically a direct cash payment when they file their taxes for a minimum of 30% of the equipment cost. Now, there are some technical details associated with that. And so not all of news equipment is eligible for it, but much of news equipment is. And it has to be a solar system. It can have batteries, but those batteries have to be charged from solar. And the minimum size of the battery capacity must be 5 kilowatt hours. So if you have any questions or would like more information, reach out to us after this presentation. But here's the other really interesting thing. The IRA has these things which we sometimes refer to as adders. And so one of the adders is if your equipment is deployed in a low income area, that entitles you to at least a 10% adder, meaning you get 40% back, not 30%, right? There are some additional adders, including something called an energy community. So if you're deploying your equipment in an area that had a coal or gas-fired power plant, or used to have a coal mine, and so there's a list of these these conditions, right? That entitles you to another 10%. And so you could easily get back anywhere from 30 to 50%. In fact, I think the upper limit is about 60%. But again, there are a list of conditions that you have to meet. But in many cases where you're deploying in a low income area, you can most likely get back at least 40% of your initial investment. So you can see how that's a huge benefit. So before we get into Q&A, I just want to share with you a quick 48-second video, which we received from our friends in Ukraine. And I just feel that this is something that I'd love to share with you guys. So.
В Донецькій області в районі річки Сіверський Донець є у нас в одному батальйонський медпункт. Світла і води тут немає вже 3 місяці. Електричний генератор. Ось панелі. Сонячні. Такі йдуть стосовно цієї чудо штуки, яка тримає і Starlink добу, і цей холодильничок, інсуліни і всякі речі, які потребують холодового ланцюжка. Так що дуже дякуємо за таку штуку. Юра дуже помічна. Дякуємо.
So with that, I'm gonna take some questions and feel free to pose questions to Paul as well. And so I don't see any questions coming in so far. Is everyone familiar with the Q&A function? You can pose a question. If not, what I can do is I can briefly talk maybe a little bit more about the Inflation Reduction Act. Again, just to provide people with more information, one thing that we recommend, of course, is that you consult your tax professional. We're not in the business of providing tax advice, although our information has been vetted. We do have outside tax counsel, and in my former role in the solar industry, I was very much involved on what's called the tax equity side. So this is where investors take the tax credits to finance solar systems. So I do have one question here. What is the impact of objects such as hailstones? What is the effect of that on the fabric panels? So great question. And the answer is even less so than regular glass panels. So regular glass panels are typically, when they're tested, one of the tests is to subject them to the impact of 1-inch hailstones hitting the panels at 60 miles an hour. I've actually been in the lab and I've seen those tests being conducted. And so in the case of the panels that have no glass, that's even less of an issue because the main issue is really sort of cracking the glass, right? And while I would not recommend it, the manufacturer of our solar panels, which is Merlin Solar out of California, has given us anecdotal evidence of some of their panels having bullet holes put through them and still function. So they're definitely more durable as well as lighter than regular solar panels. And great, so we have more questions coming in. So is there a standard kit size? And if so, what are the PV and battery inverter ratings? So there is no standard kit size. If you go to our website, newiusenergy.com, you'll see a range of products there. And so I'll just kind of bracket it by talking about our smallest and our largest kit. So our smallest kit is roughly 1,000-watt inverter with a kilowatt hour of batteries, just under in the older version and over in the newer version. And that can be powered by one of our smallest folding solar arrays, 210 watts. And then the largest would really be one of our trailers, which can go up to 8 to 10 kilowatts of inverter capacity, battery capacity ranging from 10 to 50 or more kilowatt hours. And the solar array on the trailers range from about 1.3 to about 6 kilowatts. And that's on board the trailer. You can have auxiliary solar in addition to that. Next question. There's a threat of sabotage of critical infrastructure in Europe. Do you have special plugs to power gas stations or water cleaning freshwater pumps? Is it pure sine wave or rectangular? So I'll answer the last question first. So all of our inverters are pure sine wave. So you can power sensitive equipment with any of our products. As far as special plugs, for our European products, and we do have a sun kit that was developed specifically for the European market, but is also available to the international market. We use the appropriate outlets for the market. And, we also have in our sun kit, we also have are kind of be coming out with split phase inverters. So 120, 240, the 240 will have a 30 amp plug available, and that's for the American market. But essentially, we do have the appropriate outlets for the market, depending on where they're sold. So if you buy an American product and ship it to Europe, then yeah, you might have to provide an adapter. But if you order a product from us for the European market, we will ship it appropriately configured. What is the current lead time for the kits? So most of our power packs are currently available, although we are on, as Paul mentioned, because we're getting new power packs in, we're on our last iteration of the old generation. So once we clear out our inventory, then we'll be switching to the new one in about a month. So we are offering some special pricing on that existing inventory. So please reach out to me or Paul afterwards, and we can talk more about that. But yeah, many of our power packs are available to ship today, as well as some of the sun kits. One other question: have these kits been field tested as airdroppable or other methods where landing zones are not yet available? So the short answer is no, we have not attempted to airdrop these products. However, what we can say based on feedback from our users, and we showed you some pictures of them being deployed in the field, is they are definitely much more durable than some of the other products out there that are more consumer oriented. Starting with the case, a lot of the consumer oriented products are these custom molded hard plastic cases, which look nice, but unfortunately are also more brittle and crack very easily. Our cases are ABS plastic, and so they're way more durable. Plus, we actually designed them, especially with this new generation coming up, we designed them from the inside out, or the outside in, starting with a case, like Paul said, but then on the inside, everything is designed so that it can take a certain amount of impact, and from the wiring, the quality of the wiring, to the components and their placement and padding is all done with that durability in mind.
Hey, Lee, can I make a quick comment about the air shipping? I just want to say that yes, lithium ferrophosphate unfortunately is bundled with all lithium chemistries. It can be air shipped. It requires diligent labeling and packaging. So it has to be in a UN certified box. If it's a battery, if it's a power system, it's a bit easier, but it just has to be, it's very particular rules and regulations about the actual stickering and everything. So we have actually airshipped them to Ukraine. So yeah.
Yeah, so there's a question here, Paul, about someone wanting to sell equipment in Germany. Do you want to maybe?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Please let us know. We are expanding our distribution in Europe. We actually manufacture a international sun kit in Germany, and it is available for resale. It's a beautiful unit. It's a solar UPS, and it has the first systems were shipped to Ukraine to frontline field hospitals. It's 5 kilowatt inverter, 5 kilowatts of PV input, 5 kilowatt of batteries, expandable to over 20 kilowatt hours if you want. And it is a absolutely beautiful self-contained unit, great to export from Europe as well. So if you could please put your, I'll put my email, or I can't actually put my email in the chat. Lee, I don't know who can, but
we've got his email through the attendee, so you guys can follow up with him. I'll provide the email address.
Thank you.
Great, thanks, Andy.
Oh,
So,
sorry, and if I can add, we actually are working with a similar company in the Baltic states that's very concerned about sabotage to critical infrastructure. So as far as special plugs, that can be adapted. We can correspond about that.
right, and so Mark had a question about the projected number of charging cycles. So Mark, it depends on which product. But all the batteries are lithium iron phosphate, and depending on the cells used on the product, we're looking at a minimum of about 2,000 to 3,000 to around 6,000 cycles design life. So again, the actual number of cycles really depends on a variety of variables, right, including how you use them, depth of discharge, operating conditions, etc. But I know that there are some consumer products which are really kind of quite low, almost like lead acid in terms of cycle life. So all of ours are good for at least several thousand cycles. So we are just past the hour. There's someone provided an email, but Andy, I think you've captured that, right? And we're recording this session too, by the way. So if you know anyone that you think this would be valuable for, please refer them to our website, because we will be saving the recordings so people can watch them. And I hope this was helpful to the viewers. If you have any questions, here's our contact information, or you can go to our website and you can get in touch with Paul as well that way. So thank you again very much, and you guys have a great rest of your day.